Hello, my friends. My name is Darren Gerdes, and this is the Daily Brief. If you're looking for Ukraine war news, this is the place for you every day. I do this in the morning, and then I do three big stories in the evening. Okay, 1,230 Russians off the battlefield, 11 tanks, 26 armored combat vehicles, 46 artillery pieces, and 79 vehicles and fuel tanks. It's still moving pretty hot and heavy on the battlefield. I think this will slow down in a month or two, and I'll show you why I say that in just a moment. Andrew Perpetua's numbers, it's about 1-to-1. That's not a good day for the Ukrainians. You really want to see about 3-to-1 ratio just because of the material overmatch. Ukraine's 79th Brigade repels one of the biggest Russian assaults on the Kharkov front. According to this article and the video included in it, I'm not showing the video, the soldiers of the 79th Assault Brigade have reported that they've repelled one of the biggest Russian assaults since the beginning of the full-scale war. Occupying army simultaneously deployed 11 tanks, 45 armored combat vehicles with landing force, and one Terminator tank support combat vehicle. The Russians also attacked using 12 motorcycles. 12 racers participated in the front. Motorcycles going into combat just seems like a very bad idea. As a result of the battle, the paratroopers struck 6 tanks and 7 armored infantry fighting vehicles carrying personnel. All 12 motorcycles were burned down. 40 members of the Russian personnel were killed. 37 were injured. Okay, so that's just one battle. But again, the Russians are pushing on multiple fronts and making marginal gains. So let's not just trick ourselves into thinking like, see, they're just winning. The Russians are pushing, and they keep pushing with plenty of meat into the grinder. Air defense eliminates 25 out of 38 enemy kamikaze drones. And where it came from was really interesting. It came from Crimea across the Black Sea. And what happened here, 3 drones reportedly crossed the border into Romania. So now this is, of course, going to be an international incident, right? Because Schultz to Putin, we will defend every square inch of NATO territory. And Biden promises allies, we will defend every inch of NATO territory. So now it's on, right? No, nothing's going to happen. On the night of July 25th, as part of Russia's attack on Ukraine's port infrastructure, 3 Shahed drones bypassed the international border, disappearing into NATO member Romania, confirmed by Air Force Commander Lieutenant General Olechuk. Okay, so it goes from Crimea over, and it was trying to apparently strike somewhere down here and went into Romania. Now, I know every time I talk about something like this, some kind of incursion, somebody said, well, we don't want to get into a war over an accident. Yes, but if you do nothing, you invite more accidents, and that's what's going to happen. Russian Shahed drones struck Romanian territory. Romania is a member of NATO. It must be nice for Russia to know that such incidents will be written off as not an attack and will yield zero response from NATO. Well, that is nice because that means that they can just do it with impunity. Romanian foreign minister confirmed that fragments of Russian Shaheds were found on Romanian territory. She stated that Russia conducted horrific attacks on Ukrainian civilian infrastructure, and Romania has informed its allies and is coordinating actions with them. Of course, followed by condemnations. More heinous attacks have been perpetrated by Russia against Ukrainian civilian infrastructure. Debris has been found on Romanian territory. Romania strongly condemns these irresponsible actions. But Romania and NATO are, I submit, being irresponsible by doing nothing. Here's a view from Russian Air Force 295 in Alaska's Air Defense Identification Zone yesterday, after an intercept by U.S. and Canadian forces, not in Alaskan or U.S. sovereign territory, but just outside it. So 2 U.S. Air Force F-16 Falcons showed up, 1 U.S. Air Force F-35, and 2 Canadian CF-18 Hornets showed up. This is happening, right? For the first time, 2 Russian Tu-95s and 2 Chinese H-6 bombers conducted a joint operation in international airspace near Alaska. Yeah, because they know that they're getting away with things, and so they're going to keep pushing those boundaries. It's almost like a 2-year-old trying to figure out just how far he can go before he gets in trouble. That's the kind of thing that's happening here. Russia's Kursk Oblast governor claimed that the alleged downing of 17 Ukrainian drones overnight. Yes, okay, so we know that these drones actually went down, and if you look at Euromaidan press, you see the same kind of thing, that you see the claim, but nothing. We can't confirm anything just yet. Ukrainian forces, this is the British Ministry of Defense, Ukrainian forces are successfully striking Russian air defenses in Crimea. Ukraine destroyed surface-to-air missile systems in Crimea, showing how Russia is struggling to defend the peninsula. These strikes mean Russia must draw resources away from the other fronts, weakening its air capacity. Or they have to sacrifice Crimea. Ukraine's armed forces have successfully attacked airfields inside Russia as well. The airstrikes force Russian planes to fly further from the front line, increasing fatigue as sortie time increases. It's possible that Russian accidental loss of a bomber in North Ossetia was linked to pilot fatigue. So, like, remember, everything here is interconnected, and so to the degree that they can be successful in one place and they have to, backfill the air defense, it can have a significant effect on another place. So I don't know that this is linked in any way, but a Mi-28 attack helicopter crashed in the Kaluga region. Now, if you read in both Pravda and Euromaidan press, what you'll find is that the helicopter crash was not shot down. It was just technical malfunction, as they say, but the helicopter and the pilots were lost. Partisans also set fire to a helicopter in the Kryaza airfield in Samara, Russia. So down 2 Russian helicopters without Ukraine having to do anything. Now, I said earlier, we're going to come to this. Russia will soon be unable to conduct active assaults on many fronts and will transition to a defensive stance within a month, according to the National Guard commander in Ukraine. He urged the need for the armed forces of Ukraine to form units, prepare, and identify weak points. This can't come soon enough, because it's not just Russia who's exhausting themselves. Ukraine is getting pretty threadbare in their defense line. So it's good that this is starting to slow down, because it's been up in the 1200s for like 2 months straight. This has been the hottest fighting of the war so far. All Russian warships have also left the Sea of Azov, Speaker of the Ukrainian Navy says. This was caused primarily by the damage to the railway ferry. Remember that? We just talked about it yesterday or the day before. I don't remember which. They took a map and a compass and decided that it was probably not very safe to stay there. This is the only language our enemy understands, the language of power. So I talked about this ferry being hit, but I thought the big story was, wow, this is north of the Crimean Bridge and they attacked that. Wow, that's interesting. I thought geography was the issue. The issue is there's only 2 of these roll-on, roll-off ferries, and one of them was struck some time ago. This other one was just struck, and yeah, so it's a thing. Okay, some political news. Slovakia joins Putin's party, according to Jay in Kyiv, set to implement a law written in the Kremlin. The Foreign Agents Law, does that sound familiar? The Foreign Agents Law? That's what they were protesting in Georgia. The Foreign Agents Law will be used to jail political opposition, a law of which everyone is guilty and then selectively enforced. So Slovakia might be moving that direction as well. Putin and Lukashenko met up in Valam Monastery. It's known that Putin has a residence close by, and Anton Gurashenko is talking about how 2 murderers and criminals in a church. But if you have no fear of God and the church leadership, the priests of the church, actually work for you, why worry about it? Putin also met with Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad at the Kremlin. So he just, I saw a comment, I think it was Jay in Kyiv, who was talking about, by not supplying Ukraine in a timely fashion, what you've done is you've caused Russia to be able to assemble all of the dictators around the world who hate the West into a coalition. And I think that's right. Ukraine detained 19 individuals accused of preparing and executing arson attacks on Ukraine and the EU, the group allegedly working for Russian FSB to just create havoc, setting fires in stores and gas stations and so on and so forth around the EU. The SBU reports that the main targets were shopping centers, gas stations, pharmacies, and markets in Ukraine, Poland, and the Baltic countries. And so, again, sponsored by the Russian FSB. Now, I couldn't find the original source, but Anna from Ukraine is a fairly trustworthy source. I have no hesitancy of putting this forward, even if I couldn't find the source. She says another Russian general was just killed. That would make 21 generals that have been killed so far. Meanwhile, Russian generals are doing their best to take themselves out of play. Andrei Belkov, former general director of the Defense Ministry's military construction company, has been detained in Moscow. He's suspected of abuse of power in the execution of state defense contracts. Prior to his arrest and bribery charges, former Deputy Defense Minister Timur Ivanov supervised the activities of the military construction company. So, how about that? Almost 5 million acres of forest have burned in Russia since the beginning of the year. This is a 3-year high. Okay, so that's a 3-year high, and 5 million hectares. What's that mean? That means about 19,300 square miles worth of forest has burned. 60-ton railroad bridge. I thought this was fascinating. 60-ton railroad bridge was stolen in Skopin in Ryazan region of Russia. Stolen. The bridge. Stolen. Local residents sold it for scrap metal, Russian media reports. Okay, Ambassador Bridget Brink, yesterday in Ukraine, she visited a school, one of 3,000 destroyed by Russia since its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. A school. Not just one school. There are 3,000 that have been destroyed since the invasion. Here's a man standing, just an average civilian, standing in front of his destroyed house. Like, that was his house. Now it's no longer. Head of the Olympic Games, an installation was unveiled in London to honor Ukrainian athletes who lost their lives due to the full-scale war. The installation features the number 487, though the number of the athletes who have lost their lives may be higher than that, and probably is. And this is what childhood looks like when Russia is your neighbor. I just want that to sink in. Okay, my friends, if you want to give to Project 22, Pete the Medic's last campaign, use the official link only. They are up to 107,000 out of the 320,000 that they're hoping to reach. And if you feel moved to do it, again, use that link. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.